My new book, Peace Over Pain, is now available. You can buy it for $20 on Amazon, or you can download it for free inside my exclusive Facebook group. Simply go to peaceoverpain.com/join the group. And between the group and the book, you will learn how to eliminate chronic conditions.
Welcome to Inner Peace with Dr. Reese, a program that can help you become liberated in the modern world. Now, here's your host, Dr. Kevin W. Reese.
So, do you know the science of getting rich? Welcome to episode number 161. Today, I'm welcoming back Max Ryan. He's a spiritual teacher with an emphasis on A Course in Miracles and the Law of Attraction. And today, we're going to talk about a classic book, one of the first Law of Attraction books back in the early 1900s, called The Science of Getting Rich by Wallach Waddles. This little, short, and precise book actually inspired the hit documentary The Secret. So before we begin, sit down and relax and take in this important conversation. Let's begin. Max, welcome back to the podcast.
Hey, Kevin, how are you?
So what's the science of getting rich?
I always say to my students that it's a mini Course in Miracles because, I'm a student and teacher of A Course in Miracles, which is a study, a tome, thousands of pages. And a lot of the science of getting rich has a lot of A Course in Miracles principles.
Is it safe to say that SOGR is the first modern teaching on the law of attraction that inspired the woman that made The Secret, which The Secret is what made it become a popular phenomenon?
If I'm not mistaken, there's a guy named Thomas Troward who spoke and wrote before Wallach Waddles. So I don't think it's the original, but it's, it's back in those days. And yeah, she definitely. And then when The Secret came out, and I was like, oh, she read the book. Okay, she read the book too.
So what I want to do is I want to go through the certain way.
Okay.
One at a time and get your commentary on each one.
Oh, sure.
Before we do that, I want to make sure that the listeners are up to date or they have context. How would you describe the formless substance?
The formless substance is energy, pure energy that has not been influenced at all. It's pure energy that is just, this is the word. One of my favorite things. I was just telling my students this just an hour ago. It is pure potentiality. Pure potentiality. So the formless stuff is pure potentiality.
That's a good way to put it.
In the book, he actually says, and he says it a couple of times, he goes, God or the formless substance. So, yeah.
Okay, so our computer in our head has the ability to create images and thoughts. And so when we impress that on the formless substance, things can happen.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, because it's pure potential. It's raw clay. It's just sitting there and it's waiting to, is it going to be a cup? Is it going to be a plate? Is it going to be a building? Is it going to be $1 million? It's just pure potentiality.
Right. And Wallach Waddles, he created the certain way
well
as sort of a step-by-step process, which, like you said, it's just so simple.
Yeah.
All right, so let's jump into the certain way. Number one, there is a thinking stuff from which all things are made, and which, in its original state, permeates, penetrates, and fills the interspaces of the universe.
It creates everything. What you want, what you don't want, it creates everything in
Right.
your universe.
So if you're a negative thinker, you're in trouble.
That's right. Well, you're not in trouble. It's just if you think it's negative, if you think negative is bad. But nothing is either good or bad, but thinking makes it so.
Right. So if somebody has a negative view of themselves, say
Mm-hmm.
they think they're not good enough, or they're not
Right.
you know, pretty enough or handsome enough, and they put that out into the formless substance.
Then they're going to get the results of that.
Yeah.
So they're going to put out, they're going to attract people that are going to be like, you're great, but boy, that knows. Whatever. I'm just being, whatever. But ultimately, it's kind of like we all know this. It's so super basic, right, Kevin? Because like if you meet people that have a really low self-esteem that think they're a pile of doo-doo, you meet them and you're like, oh man, you can feel it from them. You
Yeah.
can feel it. And the opposite is true too. People that are just really confident in themselves are just like, it doesn't matter what people think of me. You can feel it from them too. So it's really obvious, actually.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I know someone who is kind of always in a negative state. They sigh a lot.
Yes.
They don't even know it. They just walk through life and they're just like, yeah. It's like
It's
defeated.
so hard. Life's so tough. I know, exactly. And then we, because, we're such feeling beings, we are like, the radar goes off when you're like, that's why people go, ooh, they are negative and I don't want to be around them or whatever. That's a whole other conversation. But I mean, you can feel what people are imprinting on the formless stuff. You can feel it. You can see the results of their life. Mm-hmm.
So number 2,
Mm-hmm.
a thought in the substance produces the thing that is imagined by the thought.
Yep.
So we just pretty much went over that. So
Mm-hmm.
the divinity sort of provides your surroundings based on this computer. I always call it a computer.
Yeah, right. It's yeah. And one thing I wanted to say too about the formless stuff and about what we're talking about is that God, source, love, whatever you want to call it, is always saying yes. It's always saying yes to everything. Yes to everything. And not just the positive stuff, but everything. So whatever you're impressing on it, consciously and unconsciously, it's creating that for you in your life.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3, man can form things in his thought, and by impressing his thought upon formless substance, can cause the thing he thinks about to be created. So this is a more descriptive version of what we were just talking about.
This is pure co-creation, right? So co-creation is that God's always saying yes, and then you're putting out something. That source is just going, oh, well, I will create this with you. I will co-create this with you. It's not really
Right.
thinking that, but you know what I'm saying.
And Wallace Waddles, gives the teaching in the book that to be a creator and not a competitor.
That one of the biggest things in the whole book, because the world, in the illusion of the world, it's not a real world, is that we have to be competitive all the time, especially when it comes to money and business. It's all about get the next guy, make sure. And he's like, no, you have to completely get competition out of your brain. There's no one to compete with. You're only there to create.
And that leads me to number 4. In order to do this, man must pass from the competitive to the creative mind. Otherwise, he cannot be in harmony with the formless intelligence, which is always creative and never competitive in spirit.
Never. It's never competitive because he also states that you have to get rid of sacrifice and the idea of lack and all of that stuff. That's not even real. That's just another idea you're impressing on the formless that there's lack. There's only so much and I have to sacrifice. All of that stuff is just a belief that you're putting onto the formless stuff. So you have the opportunity, you don't have to do anything. You have the opportunity to be like, huh, I'm my own worst enemy and I'm creating that. So I have to get rid of that thing. And yeah, no one else. It's like the old thing that says, the only, and this is weird, but only person you have to compete with is you.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
And that's
To put
sort
it that
of,
way.
yeah, and that sort of goes over to the Four Agreements. Don
Hmm.
Miguel Ruiz, who, in my opinion, brilliantly broke everything down to four things.
Yeah.
And one of them is just do your best.
Yeah. That's all you can do.
Put your best foot forward, no
That's
matter
right.
what you're doing, right? Whether
That's
you're
right.
washing the dishes or you're working on a big project.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing. One thing I say to my students all the time, and I try to remember in my life, is the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. It's true.
Hmm.
Hmm. For sure.
And what Wallace is also saying here is to have that attitude of abundance, right? Like everything's there for you, right? You can
Hmm.
have, right? You don't have to be limited. You don't have to be in lack.
No. Hmm. This is where it comes like what I said about A Course in Miracles. The first principle of miracles in A Course in Miracles is there is no order of difficulty in miracles. One is not easier or harder than the other. The rest line says all forms of love are maximal. So there is no order of difficulty in miracles. You've already decided that's a hard thing and that's an easy thing. I can make money to get a Starbucks coffee, but I can't make money to have $1 million whatever
Right.
yacht.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But there's no difference between those. The only difference is you're impressing your belief onto the formless substance that, oh, having a yacht is really hard. It's
Right.
harder than getting a Starbucks coffee. No, it's not. Not for the person that's getting it. They're like, just gonna go get. That's why the rich stay rich, the poor stay poor, or wherever you are,
Mm.
because that's what you just believe. You just buy into that belief, and that's what the formless stuff in your world is doing for you.
One of the other things that really stuck out to me in this book when I read it about 5 or 6 years ago was he says, don't help the poor.
Oh my God, that's I have this that here too. It's pretty intense, right?
He says, if anything, hand them this book.
Yep, yep. And when you read this, you go, "What are
Yeah.
you talking about?" It's about charity. So the idea here is that if you if you continue to give to charity, all you're doing is putting onto the formless stuff that there is lack, that there's lack. And that is a problem because if you believe that to be true, well, the other thing he says is the best thing you can do for anyone is to get rich yourself. So
Right.
show them a way, which is a very, it's like mentoring. He even, the idea of mastermind.
Hmm.
We now kind of know that, but that came from this book. You have a mastermind to help others to do that instead of always saying, "Oh, you're so poor, you need help, blah de blah de blah," and that is not a good thing. Oh, here we go.
Okay.
Do not talk about poverty. Do not investigate it or concern yourself with it. Never mind what poverty's causes are. You have nothing to do with them.
Mm.
What concerns you is the cure. Do not ever spend your time in charity work or charity movements. All charity only tends to perpetuate the wretchedness it aims to eradicate.
Mm. It's heavy.
That's heavy. That's heavy. It's very interesting. I
So
mean,
what
some radical things in here that you go, what? But
Yeah.
it goes along with the principle he's talking about, because then all you're doing is imprinting on the formless stuff. Lack, bad, horrible. They're in a
You're
bad place.
you're also enabling someone, right?
That's right. The complete opposite of what um, Neville Goddard
Hmm.
is one of my favorites. He's all like, when you meet someone that doesn't have a job or whatever, see them employed, see them happy, create that space in the formless stuff, and see if you don't see them as lacking, you see them as thriving.
Right.
And he had many, many, many examples of, people he's done that for. And we can do that. Well, you do that for your clients.
Yes.
You see them already healed on some level,
Hmm.
so that they can then be healed.
Hmm.
It's the same idea, same idea. But you're also
Absolutely.
helping them at the same time. So
Sure. There has to be
there's a
some
thing.
action.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, number 5. Man may come into full harmony with the formless substance by entertaining a lively and sincere gratitude for the blessings it stows upon him. Gratitude unifies the mind of the man with intelligence of substance, so that man's thoughts are received by the formless. Man can remain on the creative plane only by uniting himself with the formless intelligence through a deep and continuous feeling of gratitude.
Yeah, there's a whole section on gratitude for sure. There's no doubt about it. Wow, I feel so great that I got that job. I feel so great that they're nice to me. I feel so great that my feet are working today. Those are really good things, because all you're doing is putting onto the formless stuff positive things about what's already happening. And that's really good, because ultimately we're talking about negative or positive, but ultimately there's just a whole bunch of neutral stuff on that you're imprinting onto the formless stuff. It's your attitude about it that changes it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, what about when you have so much gratitude, you get those tears of joy? What about that?
It's just a higher state. It's just a higher state. Appreciation is a matching vibration. It's very equal. I appreciate the love you're giving me. I appreciate that you and I are on the same page. I appreciate these feet that are helping me to walk. Gratitude, think about this and you can feel it. Gratitude there's nothing wrong with either of them, tends to put you lower and whatever you're grateful for higher.
Mm,
So I'm down here, it's up here, so I should be grateful. Don't say should or whatever. So there's nothing wrong with either of them, but appreciation is more of an equal vibration.
that's
So if you can
interesting.
appreciate something, when you said that tears of joy or whatever, of gratitude, a lot of times that will appreciation will bring those tears, because you're like, I'm as worthy as the thing. And you go, oh God, that's so amazing. I'm so grateful. I so appreciate this.
A lot of religions put God above
Oh yeah,
the man or the woman, and that creates the looking up thing too, right?
of course. You're supposed to be. And then now, of course, in the last, you know, 50 years or whatever, maybe less, you have to be grateful. You have to be grateful. You have to be grateful. Do you really have to be grateful? Because actually, true gratitude comes when you're just living your life and it just appears. And you're like, yeah, I'm so appreciative of, and it's more appreciation than gratitude.
Do you feel that Wallace Waddles, we could just swap out the word for in this book to appreciation and it would make sense?
Yeah, I think you could.
What I get out of this is Wallace Waddles to me. Now I look, I understand the human body at a pretty high level. So to me, I equate it to like enzymes, right? So you need enzymes to break down food, or you
Mm-hmm.
need insulin to metabolize sugar.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm hearing Wallace Waddle say you need gratitude or appreciation to, make the digestion of the divinity of the formless substance happen, to the
Hmm.
attraction happen.
Well, it's part of his certain way in his formula. He also is like you have to be incredibly clear about what your vision is all about, the vision and specifics of the vision, and you can't be like, oh, kind of whatever. He's very much about you have to have a specific, it is this house on this road with this color at this whatever. He's very clear about that. That's another thing that he talks about of having a very clear vision, which is
And that
obvious.
brings me to number 6, which is the longest one, so bear with me.
Sure.
Man must inform a clear and definite mental image of the things he wishes to have, to do, or to become, and he must hold this mental image in his thoughts while being deeply grateful to the Supreme that all his desires are granted to him. The man who wishes to get rich must spend his leisure hours contemplating his vision and an earnest thanksgiving that the reality is being given to him. Too much stress cannot be laid on the importance of frequent contemplation of the mental image, coupled with the unwavering faith and devout gratitude. This is the process by which the impression is given to the formless in the creative forces set in motion. So,
That's that's it. That's a very interesting. I mean, it's very interesting because that he says like come back to the vision. I'm just using the word vision, but come back to what you want, come back to what you want and everything. And this has obviously been taught from law of attraction stuff all the time. Have a clear vision, vision boards, and all that stuff, which is great, which is fantastic. What a lot of people get screw up with this is that they start to this is very when people start to get what I'm going to tell you next, they go, "Oh my God, it's so true." They start to have a clear vision of, let's say, the house. It's on Malibu, and da 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 da. Da. They get a clear vision, and they keep going back, and they're like, "I have the picture," and da da da. And they go, "Oh, the house. It's the house. It's the house. Okay, the house." And they keep coming back to it, and then they're like, "The house isn't here yet, so I have to focus more. The house isn't here yet, so I have to focus more." So then they start to associate a desperate feeling with the house in Malibu. And
right,
then they're like, why the hell isn't it showing up?
right.
Because now they've impressed a desperate vibration onto the house. And that vibration of the house in Malibu has desperation. And that's what you're putting on the formless universe. So it's never going to happen.
Mm,
That's where it's very important. Desperation blocks manifestation every single time. But you don't really realize it because you're told through so many so much law of attraction stuff. And even if you don't read this correctly, because in another part of Science of Getting Rich, he says there's no need to keep praying about this stuff. There's no need to go back and think about it. That's another part of it. Because if you keep doing back, you're proving to yourself you don't have it.
mm.
That's the key. And what's his name? What did I just say? Goddard.
Goddard. Mm.
He's all like, you have to feel it real right now, and you have to just know that it's happening. You just have to know that's what it is, and then let it go.
Trust,
That's right. You just have to
trust,
trust it.
trust.
Totally.
Now, would the gratitude / appreciation sort of neutralize the potential desperation?
Yes, it can. That's true. It can. It can make your vibration around that thing be like, okay, just calm down about that thing for sure. And when you know that it's true, it's just like I always say, and this is a funny little thing. You don't sit there and go, I really want toilet paper. I'm thinking about toilet paper. It's white. It'll help me. You don't sit there and like revisit it. You just know you're going to have a toilet paper. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Anything that's happening in your life right now, you're not like focusing on it. You're just like, wow, okay, toilet paper makes me feel good. I'm going to have toilet paper. So it's there.
in my experience, sometimes you can feel it so much that that's when the gratitude or appreciation kicks in.
That can be true. Yeah.
And
For
so
sure.
it's you're um in a way you're tricking yourself that you already have it.
Do you know what feel it real sessions are?
No.
Oh, that's the greatest thing in the world. I mean, one of the greatest things. But Neville Goddard teaches these things, feel it real sessions. I teach it to my students all the time, and they're amazing sessions. They're great. And it's a very specific, certain way of doing a visualization where you feel it real right now, that it's happening. And when you have that, it's in your vibration. It is who you are. And so it's a very specific way to go through. It's not very complicated. Um, and that's the whole point. So that you already like, yeah, I'm a successful author. It's already because you have it. It's already there because you've created it already.
Right.
You have an experience of it.
Right. Right.
What else in that last one? That was long.
It was long. Deeply grateful to the Supreme that all his desires are granted. Yeah, so that's basically what we were just saying.
hmm
The his leisure time is big. He's basically saying, okay, if you work 8 hours, you spend another 2 hours doing this.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah.
It's almost like, back then they didn't have TV
Oh yeah. To
or
be distracted
cell
by 50
phones.
million things. Uh-huh. hmm
So, you know, we have to tell modern people, put the Netflix away, put the cell phone away, and just imagine what it is that you're working toward
Yeah. Without desperation.
without desperation.
Do it. As I tell people, it's like there's a process, whatever, but I'm like, don't read I call it a desire statement or whatever. Don't read your desire statement for your thing when you're not feeling good. Like, oh, I'm gonna read my desire statement about my mansion now. Don't do that. You read it or you walk on when it makes you feel good because you're in that feeling of flow and that feeling. And the other part is like the one of the reasons I come back to the Course in Miracles is that thing about leisure time directly is in alignment with what's it called? The principle of A Course in Miracles of I need do nothing.
Hmm.
You don't have to do anything. The doing is usually the problem. Because the Course in Miracles would say, do not attempt to change the world, attempt to change your mind about the world. If you change your mind about you, then everything is going to flow. People don't love me. I'm a loser. Something's wrong with me. I'll never get ahead. Everything that's going on to the substance and everything flows from there. But if you go, wait a second, there's no reason why I can't have anything that anybody has. There's no reason, even though I have this past or whatever, I have pure potentiality in me too, then everything will flow from there for sure. Because and he always says that, come back, don't try to manipulate the outer world. He says that in Science of Getting Rich. You only have to work on this, the mind.
And don't impress on other people, right?
Yeah, he has a whole thing about that. Yeah. He's like, there's like a rule that you're not supposed to do that for other people. I don't really agree with that
Okay.
because of what we just said. Because if you decide, you know what, for somebody like your patients or my students, and you're like, they just can't see how incredible they are yet. That you can't see that you can see that this thing in their body can heal. They can't see it, so you're going to help them to see it.
Right.
So that's why I'm a little like that part of it. I'm a little like, but I understand it's like what he's saying is there, don't get involved with other people. Don't try to change other people. You just change yourself, and then the right things that match that will come, right people will come to you.
Right. I also do a reprogramming audio with my clients where I recorded myself giving good goal statements,
hmm
like I am healthy, my body knows how to heal, stuff like that.
Right.
And then I have them listen to it as they're going to bed.
Yeah, that's great.
And it just downloads into their subconscious.
Yeah, that's good. That's great. And listen, I'm like anything that works in in the illusion, in the separated state, for sure. If you
Now
can
let's
change
talk
it.
about that because we have some new listeners here who may not have heard our first podcast together, which is about a year and a half ago, I want to say,
Was
maybe
it?
2 years
I
ago.
was gonna say a little longer, I think. And a lot of my work has changed since then, actually. So,
Okay.
mhm.
And so talk about the illusion, the matrix of life here.
So I am basically a facilitator of conversations about non-duality or truth, right? So Course in Miracles is a form of non-duality. It's helping you to see the illusion of the world, and so that you can come back to or be aware of truth, right? So in the illusion, there's duality. There's good, there's bad, like we were saying. There is sick, there's healing. There is life, there is death in the illusion. But you are not the truth of you isn't in the illusion. It's a character that's running around named Kevin, named Max, or whatever. But the truth is something completely different. But when you get the game that's been going on, that goes on in the illusion, you see that it's all a game. And you go, oh, and this is where the science of getting rich can be really great, because then you just go, oh, I get it. I've been operating from this thing that I thought was a character called Max, but I'm not that character. I'm something, and I can't teach you what that is or whatever, but it's something else that is not limited at all, that doesn't have any, it doesn't have potential and doesn't have any limit. It just is. Like when in the Bible, I am that I am, right? So the illusion is the world of duality, and the character that everyone is that identifies with is duality. I'm a success, I'm a failure. I'm old, I'm young. I'm alive, I'm dead. That is what the illusion is, because that's not the truth of who you are,
Right.
right? And when you start to wake up from this illusion, that's what's called spiritual awakening
Right.
in many ways. But
Yeah,
yeah,
we're walking around with like an avatar,
yes.
and from a health perspective, that's what we're taking care of.
Mm-hmm.
I often tell people treat your body the same way you would treat your dog. Right? You,
Yes.
you give it food, you walk it, you give it exercise,
Mm-hmm.
you give it some love. Right? You got to give your body love,
Did you see that movie Free Guy?
No,
Oh, Kevin, you have to watch that movie.
writing it down.
Free Guy. Everyone that's listening to watch that movie, because it's so much about what we're talking about.
Okay.
And it's funny.
Is it animation?
No, no, no. It's with Ryan, the Mint phone guy, whatever his name is. I don't know.
Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, you're always putting me on the movies here. You put me on to Monsters Inc. too.
Oh, well, yeah, that's another great one. That's a great one too.
It is a good one. It
But
is.
but Free Guy is really good because it's about the illusion. It's
Okay.
about thinking, because what happens, I always use the character actor thing. So it's like, you're in a play, The Lion King. You're in Lion King and you're like, I'm Simba, rah, 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 rah. But there's an actor playing Simba, but you think you are Simba. That's what's happening in the illusion. That's a character. But there's really a truth out here that's the actor, but we think we're in the play. We think we're living in the Lion King or whatever happens to be.
Right.
We're not. It's what's been, now this comes back to, it's what's been imprinted onto the formless stuff has created your life called the Lion King.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not the truth. You're the actor. And when you realize you're an actor, I can't tell you, I mean, I can help. This is what I do for a living. I help people to be like, oh shit, oh my God, if I let go of that, my life will be completely different.
Mm.
And nothing might change, but you will be completely different.
Because when you see it, life becomes much less serious.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. For sure. You just start to go, oh my God, why would I waste my time? This is
Right.
ridiculous. It's
Right.
so stupid. And then you watch people and you will you understand when Jesus said, forgive them, Father, for they do not
Right.
know. Right? And that's when you wake up.
And also going back to the formless substance and manifesting and creating this, it
That's
kind of
happening in the illusion.
And
It's not happening in truth. That's the game.
right.
So you learn how to play the game like this. Sorry, I just wanted to say that. That's
It's
that's
it's
not in the
also in
truth.
the first page of the Bible, isn't it?
The
God is creating through his
yeah,
mind.
uh-huh. I am yeah, it is.
Genesis, right there.
Genesis. Exactly. Duh. Duh. Mm-hmm.
So this God guy is basically using law of attraction to create the world,
Yeah, and there's no God guy. Of course, you know that. It's
right?
just life itself, the way it sets up in the illusion, because there is a body, there are cells. We're not saying that that's not happening. It's just not. It's the car, it's the dog, it's the whatever. But it's you're far bigger than all of that stuff. You're not a body. You're something much bigger. You're not a character called Kevin. You're something not even bigger, different. And when you get that, then you're just like, wow, maybe I can just enjoy this ride that I'm having here instead of trying to control people or organize things. And then you can play this game about becoming rich if you'd like to, but you don't have to. You don't have to.
Yeah,
Whereas a lot of people come to this kind of work of the science of getting rich, and they are so, this is going to sound judgmental, but it's a fact, that people are hypnotized by the world like, you have to be rich, you have to be successful, you
right,
have to be pretty, you have to, and then so they come to all this work with desperation, and you're like, you're fucking it up already. Sorry,
right.
screwing it up
It's okay.
already.
Yeah, and it is a game, and I like to refer to it as an adventure.
Yeah,
And you're gonna
sure.
die, and that's part of the adventure.
Accepting death is one of the best things you'll ever do in your life.
Yeah,
Really, really having death. I was doing a TikTok today and I was reading this really great quote about death and about really, you have to make death your best friend. You have to walk around with death all the time.
yep,
You have to just be with death all the time. People are like, that's so morbid. Like, no, actually, when you do that, you're going to live a completely different kind of life while you're here. You're going to be like, yeah, doesn't matter. Who cares?
yep.
Because most people's fears are based on they're going to die. Well,
Mhm.
you're going to die. News bulletin. You're going to die.
You're going to.
Yeah, your character is going to die. You won't die, but your character will.
Yep. All right, number 7, the last part of the certain way.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
The creative energy works through the established channels of natural growth and of the industrial and social order. All that is included in his mental image will surely be brought to the man who follows the instructions given above and whose faith does not waver. What he wants will come to him through the ways of established trade and commerce.
Mm-hmm.
Do not waver.
No waiver. It's interesting. I was just doing a lesson with my students, and we were talking about, let me read it from in the Course in Miracles, that says specifically, be vigilant only for God and his kingdom.
Mm,
That's one of the like big, do not waver. Do not, there's no option. There's no option. It's only God. It's only love. It's only peace. That's kind of like what he's saying. You have to be like, it's only success. It's only thriving. It's only peace. It's only love. When you have options like, well, I could fail, or I'm going to lose all my money, or whatever, and you're going back and forth between those, then that's what you're implanting onto the formless substance.
mm.
Hmm. For sure.
A side note, I just love the term formless substance. I mean, it's like the best
Yeah.
term ever
So good, right?
for divinity or God. It's like the best thing ever.
Yeah. It's pure potential. It's just, and it can be anything. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so trust, do not waver, but you also have to be working towards the goal, right? You can't just sit on the couch and manifest a yellow Lamborghini, right?
There's no reason you couldn't, first
Okay.
of all. There isn't any reason you couldn't. But in the illusion, that this is all we're talking about, manipulating the illusion. That's what we're talking about. That's what this is all about. Um, Action is important, but you don't need nearly as much action as you think.
Mm.
You don't. Most people are just going, oh, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. No, it's kind of like, the practical thing. Just do two things really well instead of 10 things, right? Because this is a physical universe. So it does. I mean, but if we're going to take the principle completely all the way to its purest form, you could be sitting in your house and someone could drive up and say, here's your Lamborghini. That could happen. But I also say to people, if you really want to fall in love, you're probably not gonna have the love of your life knock on your door while you're watching Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Thinking about that.
You got to get
Action.
out there and date, and eventually you'll find you.
Yeah, move in the direction. That's a very simple kind of metaphysical thing. Just start to move in the direction, but do actions that feel good, that feel like, oh, this feels good. I like that. I'm going to learn about that part of my business. I'm going to do that. As soon as it gets into desperation, don't do that.
That's key. You're so right on that.
Yeah, for sure.
Changes the vibration.
Uh-huh. And action can be really fun.
Yeah, you got to do something anyway.
Yeah.
In the game, I mean, you could take a day off, no doubt, but
yeah,
you have to do something with your time, or you're just gonna sit on the rock. And even the Buddha did something. I mean, he was a teacher.
But listen, and it all depends on what you want your life to stand for and how you want to live your life and how you want to play the game. I mean, there's some games that you just sit on the sidelines and just watch. If that's the game you want to play, that's the formless substance that you're gonna print on it. Which is fine.
Well, usually those people end up maybe at a monastery or an ashram.
Could be, or they could just be depressed. I'm not saying that, but I mean the whole. You didn't read the very beginning of the book, which says that's about the very, very, very beginning of it, that talks about expanding life. Do you know about that part?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Being an advancing man.
And the purpose of nature is the advancement and unfoldment of life, and every man should have all that can contribute to the power, elegance, beauty, and richness of life. To be content with less is sinful. That's an incredible line. To be content with less is sinful. Wow.
So it's heavy, and one of the reasons why I'm a big Osho lover.
Oh, I love him. I love him.
He had the 90 Rolls Royces, and he was just trying to teach a lesson, really.
I know, totally.
I love him. It's so material stuff in the game.
That's right. And then people are judging him and like, you're spiritual, you shouldn't be like that and everything. It's like, you're not getting it. You are definitely not getting what he's trying to put down here, for sure.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to be miserable and sitting there and being like, oh, I don't have enough and something's wrong with me. That is definitely, you could do that, but that's not living your ultimate existence while you're playing the game. That's for sure.
Right.
That's for sure.
Right. Yeah.
And it's sinful because you're wasting your time while you're in the game.
Right. And it's the same thing with sex as well. People get very judgmental about that. Like, oh, you're spiritual. You can't be out. You can't have 3 partners.
Like, stupid.
We're in the game. Why can't you if you want to?
Yeah, exactly. I know. It's insane. I mean, that comes back to judgments and, people's belief systems and how they've been trained in the game. And, and you just go, well, that's what you do. Good for you.
I like to tell people, like, if you knew for sure that you were dead in 7 days,
yeah,
how would you spend your week?
Exactly.
And however it is that you'd spend it is probably how you should live your life.
Or go in that direction.
Go in that direction.
Move in that direction. The people would be like, I'd quit my job. I would travel. I would take an acting class. I don't know what it. Well, That's what you gotta do now. That's the point. That's the point of the whole game. Duh. People are like, I really want to have a life I love and that feels good. And I go, well, what do you want to do? I'd really like to work with plants because I love plants. I'm like, well, how much time do you work with plants? They go, oh, I don't have time to do that. I'm like, um,
Make time.
you have to make time. So yeah. And then you impress on the formless substance plant stuff, and more plant stuff will come to you.
Can pride become a blockage just like desperation?
Well, pride is from the egoic mind, right? So the ego, I would just call it the ego or the separate self, is always, well, exactly. Pride is competition.
Ah,
I'm better than you. Hmm. Or I won't do that because I have too much pride to do that. So then you're falsely humble or whatever. That's all competition.
so how can we get over pride and how can we handle our accomplishments?
Appreciate them.
Mm,
Let's come back to that. You just appreciate your accomplishments. And first of all, if you don't know the truth of who you are, you're going to be like, well, yeah, I'm the shit. I'm so great. Look at how great I am. Da, da. Well, that's not you. That's the character. The character did some stuff that got some stuff. Whatever. It's great. But you can appreciate that you put in the work, whatever you did. But that's not really who you are. If you know who you really are, you won't be prideful.
right,
You'll be humble, actually. You'll be more humble. And I'm humble in a healthy way, not that unhealthy, horrible, false humility.
right.
You'll be like, wow, I really appreciate that. If you know who you really are.
Very cool.
That's what I think, but I could be wrong. I'm often wrong.
So, Max, where can someone come find you and check out your work?
You can follow me on TikTok at Max Ryan Videos. I'm on there a lot more now. I'm also on, there's quite a few meditations and talks that I've given on Insight Timer. You can find me there. I'm also do live streams on there too. I do live streams on TikTok and on Insight Timer. And my website is maxryan.net, maxryan.net. You can find out all that. And tons of YouTube. I have tons of YouTubes
Yes.
about a lot of things. So,
Yes.
yeah.
So the last question, how long? Because Wallach Waddles says, spend your leisure time manifesting. How long do you recommend someone focus on that
When it feels good.
when it feels good?
There's no time. There's no rule. When it feels good. If you want to manifest a trip to Paris and you want to open the computer and start looking at pictures of Paris and it makes you feel good, do it. If you realize that you're like, I want to go to Paris, I gotta make it happen, don't do it. Go do something else until you want to. When it makes you feel good, you're impressing on the formless substance. Paris good, Paris good, Paris good.
So make sure your vibration, your frequency is in good before you do the work. The
Yeah,
mental work.
exactly. And it's like, and I'll just say this and then we can go, is that the Neville Goddard Feel It Real is very similar to this. And Abraham Hicks also kind of stole from them. They call it going into the workshop, whatever, where you go into your mind and you just play. You just go, oh, if I'm there and it'll be happy and whatever. Do that because it feels good. Don't do it because like I have to do this in order to get my yacht.
Man.
Just be like, I'm going to sit here and just pretend I'm on a yacht. Oh, it feels so good. I like it. Then that's how you do it. There's no rules.
My two favorite times to do this type of work is one, when I wake up in the morning.
You're right.
Because I feel great when I wake up in the morning, assuming I had a good night's sleep, which is 95% of the time.
Yeah.
Laying in bed is a good feeling in the morning.
For sure.
And there's a big appreciation of being alive.
I agree.
Right? Because you just came out of the nothingness.
Yeah. I mean, that's if you're doing well up here.
Yeah.
Some people wake up the complete opposite.
Sure.
They wake up in panic mode, But morning, they traditionally morning is good to do it, and right before you go to bed is good because you're imprinting on the on the formless substance, the last thing, like watching a funny thing before you go to bed or thinking about this stuff is always better than watching a scary movie or something like that.
Yeah.
So,
I also like to do it when I'm on a walk,
oh yeah,
when you're feeling the breeze and the nature, and you
that's
know,
good.
it's a good time to go through your goal or desire statements and just, you know,
Yeah, yeah, that's good because then you have a lot less resistance. You're like at one, you're gelling with it all, which is good.
yeah. All right. The science of getting rich, which could also be the science of becoming healthy, the science of being great, the
Hmm.
science of being a teacher, the science of
Yeah,
being
science of
in love,
happiness,
yeah,
hmm
everything.
science of peace, the science of everything. Yeah.
Right. Max, thank you so much for the time today.
Thank you. I always enjoy being here, and thanks, listeners. Nice to meet you.
Thanks for listening to Inner Peace with Dr. Reese. If this episode opened your heart, feel free to share on social media and tell your loved ones. Also, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Until next time, may peace be with you.